into surgery this morning, and she has invited me to come on and train you today. So I'm really looking forward to jumping in. She asked me to come train you on monetizing a Facebook group. So I'm just curious if you can put into the chat box just yes or no if you have a Facebook group already. It just helps me get an idea of where everyone's at. Yes, yes, no, no. Okay, go ahead, drop it in. Okay, so we've got some yeses and nos. So my intention for you today is really get a strong foundation of how you can use a Facebook group to work for you. If we haven't met yet, my name is Christina Jandali. I'm the founder of deliveryourgenius.com. I know some of you might be new to me. I've had the honor and privilege of coaching with Shanda as my mentor for number of years now, and have had the opportunity to go from ground zero in my business and my coaching business to building a multiple seven-figure company. So I wanted to talk to you as we dive in about Facebook groups, is really talking about how to monetize it, why to build it, and how to really keep it alive and profitable so that it's working for you. So here's what I find interesting. As you look at it, can you think of some industry leaders that you follow, that you tune into, that you pay attention to? And here's what I want you to notice. So many industry leaders, no matter what it is that they're actually teaching people and helping people do, guess what? They're still using a Facebook group to market their paid programs and services. Think about it. There's the Tony Robbins, even Shanda, Russell Brunson, Gabby Bernstein, Amy Porterfield use Facebook groups to sell out their offers and products and to run their campaigns. So they're all using Facebook groups to launch it. And as we look at Facebook groups, I want you to think that it has 2.93 billion monthly active users in Facebook. It's still the most active platform online for the world's population. 1 in every 4 consumer that are using online communities to make their buying decision, to make their internet buying decision, while they're considering whether they're going to purchase a product or a service. And did you know that customers actually spend 19% more with a company after joining its online community? So what is the difference? Yes, my name is Christina Jandali, founder of deliveryourgenius.com. And there's no E at the end of Jandali, it's without an E. So what's the biggest difference between a Facebook group and social media? What's the biggest difference between Facebook group and social media? What do you think that is? Right? It's platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. What do you think the biggest difference is? You have more community, private, curated environment. Yeah, so I want you to think about all of your social media platforms. They're kind of like your storefront, your business front. You're walking through, you're observing a mannequin, you're walking past a boutique or a store and you see a mannequin and it's dressed up, and you decide, what do you decide in that moment? Am I going to go in the store or not? Like, am I interested? Is this pique my interest? Is this something I'm interested in? And you decide to come in. So I want you to think your social platforms are on the outside. Your community is like inviting people in, come try on the outfit. It's this sense of community. Now, what's important to recognize is that not all leads are created equal. Okay, not all leads are created equal. And this is really eye-opening. I call this the lead predictor formula. So I want you to think of the value of a lead goes up here. What do you think the lowest value lead is? What do you think the lowest value lead is? Your lowest value lead is actually going to be a social media lead. What? That means someone that's following you. Why do you think that would be a low value lead? Because it doesn't take anything for them to click a button to say follow or subscribe, does it? Have you liked pages or followed pages that you totally forgot about, never paid attention to? Or maybe someone asked you to like your page and you felt like you should, but you really didn't want to, or you weren't really interested, but you want to do them a solid, you're trying to do them a favor, so you click like, right? Or whatever that might be. So it's not a high buy-in, it's a start. So your social media leads are your lowest value leads. Your next value lead is a lead magnet lead. So what's a lead magnet? It's when you're giving something for free in exchange for an email address. So you're giving a quiz, a PDF, a checklist, right? So that's your next value lead. This is going to be more valuable than a social media lead. Why? Because you're actually asking for an email address. Someone's giving you something, more of them. Now, have you ever been to a store where you're checking out from a store and they say, hey, would you like to get on our email list? Can we get your email address? Are you likely to say yes? I'm always like, no, I don't want you in my inbox. Right? It's something that's private, it's personal. So if I'm giving you my email, it's going to be a higher value lead. Now, the next value lead is what I call a sales system lead. And a sales system is a mechanism that's designed to turn a lead into a buyer. This could be a challenge, a webinar, a masterclass, an event, a workshop, something that you're bringing people through. Why is that more valuable? Well, because someone actually they have to dedicate their time to consume it. Do you see that? So a lead magnet you can consume and you can get your answer and solve your thing in about 5 minutes. A sales system, you're actually going to go through an experience with someone, which means that you're spending more time. Absolutely, Kaya, there's more interaction. They're giving and devoting your time. The next value lead up you have from here is a joint venture partner. So this is a collaborative lead through a summit, through a podcast interview, through a referral, through a recommendation. We take, when someone that we know, like, and trust introduces us to someone, do we put a higher degree on that person? We have more trust with them, right? Because our trust with this person carries over to the new person. And then our highest value lead is a buyer. Okay, our highest value lead is a buyer, someone that's actually purchased from us. So what I want you to think about is that you've got to have a sales system to create value with your leads. And you want to fill your leads ideally from our higher categories. So where does your Facebook group fit in? And this is where there's often confusion. Your Facebook group is the thing that houses all of this. Does that make sense? So your Facebook group is the community that funnels in the people that you bring in. So it's not, it can, as it takes on a life of its own, start to grow and become a traffic source of bringing people in when Facebook starts to recognize that people in your group are engaging and your group is growing at a regular base. Facebook's going to start pointing and sending your Facebook group to people, say, hey, you might like this group, recommended group. People like you also join this group. So it entices you and it encourages you to join a group. How many of you guys are in Shanda's Facebook group? Put me in the chat box. How many of you guys are in Shanda's Facebook group? Just go ahead and put me in the chat box. Great. So I want you to think everyone that's in Shanda's Facebook group are funneling in from her different resources that are coming in, but it gives the opportunity to create a sense of community. Now, here's what I want to ask you. Who here holds back in your business because you're afraid of being perceived as salesy, pushy, sleazy, or trying to be convincing other people? Just put yes in the chat box if you hold yourself back. If you don't put no, gives me an idea of where everyone's at. Just yes in the chat box. Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your openness. So I want you to think that a Facebook group is actually the only permission-based platform out there. What does that mean? When someone joins your Facebook group, you can ask 3 questions when they join your Facebook group. You can actually ask them and let them know when they join your Facebook group how you help people or how you want to help them. So I'll give you a couple examples. You could say in your pre-join questions, we specialize in helping exhausted new parents sleep train their babies in just 4 weeks. Would you like us to private message you with the details explaining how? Type yes or no below. Super simple, but also very transparent. Would you agree? And if someone said yes to that, would you feel better about reaching out to them to make a connection with them because they've just given you permission to reach out to them? The second example is we're known by many as the go-to experts in helping perimenopausal women balance their hormones so they can quickly lose the belly pooch and boost their energy. Would you like us to private message you the details on how? So I want you to think about with the Facebook group, it's permission based. And we find that 50% of the people who join your group will say yes to this question. 50%. So that means half the people that are coming and joining your group are asking and wanting to hear from you. What do you think that changes for you when you know that people actually want to hear from you? Go ahead and put in the chat box. What do you think changes for you? How do you show up differently when people are like, yes, I want that. I want to hear from you. I'm telling you, yes. You're going to be wanting to serve. You're going to want to you're creating more connection and value. You're feeling a need for a problem that boosts confidence, confidence, confidence. Yes. So you're making it really easy to follow up, to create that connection as people come in. So that's why Facebook groups are so powerful, because you have the opportunity to create that permission.
You learned everything or not yet?
Client, right from the get-go.
Just let it go out.
So
okay.
If we haven't met before, just to share a little bit about my own background with Facebook groups. So again, my name is Christina Jandali. I grew my business from ground zero to a multiple seven-figure company in just 7 years. The first Facebook group I opened, in the first month, I had 865 new members come into my group. Within 3 months, I had 25 members, and within a year and a half, I had over 8,000 members. I've used my Facebook group as a tool to build a seven-figure coaching company and to run six-figure launch campaigns in just a few days. I came across Facebook groups not because I had it all figured out, but because everything wasn't working. I felt like when I was early on in my business, many of the things that I was trying, I kept falling short of my income goals. Has anyone ever had that experience where it's like you set a goal for yourself, and you're like, it's coming, it's going to happen, and then you fall short and it doesn't come together. And I want you to think that as I was going through this and feeling defeated, I started to think about what it was that I was missing. Why was this not landing? And I remembered a conversation that I had with one of my mentors when I worked in the financial space. I used to work in finance and corporate. I managed wealthy people's money, so I helped wealthy people become wealthier. And I was like, what was the difference between that and what I was doing? And I realized that in the financial world, it was all about creating networks, relationships, and connection with your people. And I felt like I wasn't creating that. When no one's responding to you, or you run a webinar and no one shows up, or you're trying to put yourself out there and be visible, but people aren't responding, or you're not getting the volume of people you have coming in, it can feel really frustrating. And I found myself obsessing over stats. I would put a post up and then I'd refresh the screen thinking that it might change the number of likes or comments that people would have. I would send out an email and I'd refresh my stats again. Did they open it? Did they click it? Did they like it? Why aren't they doing it? Right? I'd overthink. Any overthinkers in the room? Overanalyze, overthink the things. You're looking at the things and you're banging your head against the wall because you just want people to like it, to get value from it. And you're banging your head against the wall. So I was doing that and I was thinking, what am I missing? And so I thought back of that moment with my mentor, and I remember asking her, what's the secret to success, to building a successful business? And she said to me, Christina, it's really simple. It's about building relationships. And in that moment, I realized I was more obsessed with the stats and how things were coming together than really focusing on building the relationships. I was focusing on wanting to get a client. I was focusing on wanting to be seen. I was focusing on all that versus focusing on just creating relationships. And I thought, well, how could I build and create those relationships online? And I felt email felt a little bit cold to me. I'd send an email, but I didn't know who's on the other side. I couldn't see them, right? I didn't know about them. It was just a name, and it didn't feel like another human to me. And so when I opened my group, I suddenly saw people. I could see who they are. I could talk to them. I could focus on building a relationship and connection with them. And that very first month that I started my Facebook group, I wanted to have a $10,000 month. That was a big marker for me. $10,000 month. Want to have it. Kept falling short. Kept falling short. And the first month that I started my Facebook group, I made $30,000. What? My mind was blown. I was like, okay, I know that I'm onto something. And I'd love to say everything was peachy and roses right after that. However, the next month I got in my head, oh my gosh, what if I can't do this again? What if it's a fluke? What if they find out this is the first time I've had such a successful month? What if I can't help them? And going through all the stories, and I ended up having 17 no's in a row. I was selling private coaching and I had never had so many enrollment calls in my life. And they started saying, no, Christina, no. And I thought, okay, something. So I was onto something. I know I was onto something. So I had a moment of feeling sorry for myself and wanting to quit. And I really stopped and looked in and checked in with myself. Okay, time to pick up your big girl pants and take this seriously. What worked? What was working with this? How can I do more of that? What's not working? How can I cut that stuff out? And I decided to take my Facebook group seriously. And in my third month of having my Facebook group, really decided to take it seriously and look at it as a business tool. Things started to take off. And within a few months after that, people started asking me, Christina, what are you doing? You're creating a lot of hype, engagement. You've got members coming in, you're making sales. I want to know how you did it. And that's really where my journey with Facebook groups has begun. The best part's been I get to create predictable income without having to work my tail off. I have more time with my family. I have flexibility to work anywhere. Our students just in the last few months have been creating epic results with their Facebook groups. Lane sold $45,000 with a $3,000 offer. Or Jen sold 106 spots in 10 days in her Facebook group, or Brenda having an $85,000 month by using their base Facebook groups as a business tool. A Facebook group is the most effective way to create connection online. And this is a private Facebook group. So there's public group and a private Facebook group. A private Facebook group means that the people can find it, but they can't see what's inside it. Because what creates a sense of community is a sense of safety that people can share. People can talk about things, but the whole world can't see. So it's really important that we cultivate and create that safety environment for them. Now, what's the biggest mistake that people make is they're pumping out so much content and they're overwhelming people, thinking if I just give more, then people are going to be interested. But it's not actually about giving more. It's about creating an experience. It's about creating two types of content. So there's two types of content that you're going to create and use in your Facebook group. Number one is maintenance content. This is your day-to-day communication, connection, conversation with the people in your group. That's number one, maintenance content. And if you stop and start with your maintenance content, guess what happens? You lose trust with your members, right? If you show up and disappear, you lose trust with them. It doesn't need to be difficult. I could create content for an entire month in 30 minutes or less to give perspective. I know it takes longer when you first get started, but it doesn't need to take that long. So we want to have maintenance content. And the second piece of content is sales system content. Now, sales system content is an experience that you create in your group that is designed to move people from a lead into a buyer, right? We want to move people from a lead into a buyer. But the thing is, if we're running a sales system and we don't have connection on that baseline with our audience, are they going to pay attention? No, of course not. They're not going to tune in. So we have to create that relationship with the people in our group. And I want to give you a quick example of this before we hop off. So an example. So what does not create connection and relationship or desire to buy your paid program and service is asking a question completely unrelated to what you do. For example, are you a coffee or tea drinker? If that's not related to what you do, that's not going to move someone forward to connecting with you. Here's another example. If you post in your Facebook group, say, what's the biggest challenge in your whatever you help people with? What's the biggest challenge in your marriage? If you're married, would you want to answer this question? Yes or no, honestly. What's the biggest challenge in your marriage right now? What's the biggest challenge in your marriage right now? Would you want to answer that to someone that you might not know yet? Would you want to answer that question? Just put yes or no in the chat. Would you be compelled to? No, of course not. Because it's like, I don't know you. I'm not sharing my dirty laundry with you. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to tell you that. Now think about the difference between this. When it comes to creating a deeply passionate, connected marriage, what's the number one question you have? Would you want to answer that question? Would that feel easier for you to answer? What's the number one question that you have as it relates to a strong marriage? Would you be more inclined to want to answer that question? Go ahead and put in the chat. I'll give a second. What someone's saying, do you want to answer this question? Yes, it feels easier. It feels lighter. Now, here's what I want you to notice. You're getting to the same answer, but the way in which you're communicating feels different, doesn't it? It feels non-judgmental. It feels open. It feels like it's creating communication. It feels like it's creating connection. And so what I want you to consider, is that you can keep things simple. What's the number one question you have as it relates to whatever it is? Could be a positioning of it. You could say, when it comes to creating deeply connected, passionate marriage, what's your number one question? So you're just shifting from what's your challenge, which is assuming something's wrong with someone and having their back up, versus what's your number one question. This is a super simple way of being able to create that connection. So we're going to wrap for today. However, I do want to let you know that if you send me a DM on Instagram, I'm at Christina.Jandali, and you put in the word Shanda, I will send you 90 days of content examples that you can use in your Facebook group or on your business page. Sound good? So if you want to get that, you can just pop me a DM and I'm happy to send that over to you. So it's at Christina.Jandali at Christina, if we can, and you're just gonna DM the word Shanda to at Christina.Jandali on Instagram. Oops, that one didn't go out to, I'll get the team to pop that in. All right. So I'd love to hear, as we're doing this, what is your biggest takeaway from today? What's your biggest takeaway from today? What did you find most valuable? What did you realize? What did you observe? What did you see? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. What was your biggest takeaway from today? Asking the right questions, using a Facebook page, engage. Yes. Creating community through online groups. Fantastic. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. We're going to close off Shanda on Demand, and we'll be spending some time in the VIP room answering questions that you guys have as it relates to Facebook groups. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.